We have my train that has a barbed wire load that you can see going through, which is a lot of fun to add, as the railroad companies used to have tons and tons of barbed wires that would be stolen, and eventually they patented their barbed wires so they could identify when the barbed wire was stolen. This video today is going to be about how to make that particular load, and unfortunately I only did one because it is painfully long, and I will show you how I did it. And there he goes. Well, here we go. You saw the what the load looks like, and now I'm going to show you how to make the load. And I'll say this a couple times in the video, but in this case, start with coffee. It's a little bit long, and it can feel tedious, but if you're doing it in a place that's in front of a TV or in front of something that you're watching, it turns out to be okay. The first thing you're going to need is, of course, the barbed wire itself, and 48 scale for my case. So I get this Green Stuff World 148 scale, and it's I believe 148 to 152nd. And in this case it's 30 millimeter scale in French units. And you cut the package open. What comes out is a coil like this. It's wound in two places. You have to undo it, and I'll mention this a couple times as well. And this can take a little bit, but you want to make sure you straighten it out really well. Your fingers, there's little nubs, right? It's meant to represent barbed wire. There's little nubs, and those little nubs can be rough on your skin. So I do this a little bit at a time. I don't do it a whole lot at a time, because what I just mentioned, it it can be rough on your fingers. So almost completely unwound at this point. And I did it on both ends. I had already done one end as it was, and as you can see, it starts to uncoil. So just make sure it's all straight. Coils are going to be bad for this. The next thing I needed to do is, and this is one of those situations where you know what you should have done once you've done it. But so this is 1 3/4 inches, the width of this gond that I'm going to put all of the barbed wire into. And so initially I thought, well, okay, so basically I need something that's 7/8 of an inch, because I wanted to put two rolls next to each other. And what I realized very quickly is that once you roll it tightly, it uncoils, and the metal, as we know, has a spring effect to it. And so initially I thought, okay, a 5/8 coil will work. Turns out that, as you'll see in the video, it still was too not tight enough. So I would definitely go to a 1/2 inch, so about 1/3 to even less. And I just got this really long dowel, and I just put a pin on it right there. And all I do is I take the end of this guy and I just roll it around the pin as a tight. You don't need too many rolls, and I don't want to lose too much material by doing it. And now it's just patience. I just keep rolling this around and around and around, and as I'm doing it, I also push these things together to try to make this coil. Now, and it's just patience. and more and more and more. And I made sure to have enough length here that I don't have it to have it tightly coiled, because I want a little bit of spring. And what you invariably notice is, of course, this mess is coming along. And initially I had not quite known how to handle this. And what I realized, and I didn't show it here, is that I needed to uncoil all of this and just let it drag all the way down. And then I could do this all the way. All right, takes a little bit, a lot of patience. Don't let it get into this messy kind of thing. These wires do uncoil from each other, so it is just fine. It is all doable. And when you're done with this, we'll go to the next part of the video, so not too hard. The cost of this can be anywhere from $5 to $7. The shipping was the part that was a little bit tough for me. Shipping is about $8 or so, plus it took a long time. But it's okay, so just plan ahead, buy a whole bunch at the same time. As I mentioned, I used about 160 feet for this gondola, which is a foot, 1 inch and 3/4 by basically 5 inches long. That's how much of that coil it took for that kind of distance. All right, we'll go on to the next part with the coils, and we'll start cutting things up and making it into a roll. Well, now we're at kind of the tedious component of this. I recommend a good cup of coffee. You're gonna need magnifying glasses and a pair of wire cutters. Right. So what we've done at this point is we've rolled our barbed wire into these long, thin tubes, and they're going to fit into our guns eventually. Now, I could just compress this, but that doesn't look right. It's when I look at pictures, the only way I was able to do this correctly is by I put my magnifying glass on, and I take one of these, and what I do is I cut 4. So I start 1, 2, 3, 4, and I just cut right there. And I have the first roll that I can start off with, and I do that for the whole roll, right? And eventually I end up with a whole bunch of them that are all like this. And the thing to do is I just roll them up like this, right? And I try to make all the loops a little bit even. As best as I can, and they don't all want to be even. And you can see there's a little bit of overlap between the two ends. You don't want too much, but just a little bit, enough that I can just take one of the ends and just roll it going around and make a catch. And what it does is it just completely locks it in place. The problem is, of course, that this back end back here is still springy, so I just roll them like this, and I end up with one of these that's ready to go as part of my roll. Now you do that over and over and over and over again for all 160 feet that I used. Then I got a white tube like this, or one of these plastic tubes, and I just painted it gray, just roughly the color of the wire. And then what I did is I just took a piece of wood and made a hole in it, and just had the gray part stick out. And then I just keep rolling, putting all of these ones that I've done, and I just put it in on here. Eventually it comes out to this long roll, and what I'm going to do is I'm just putting enough here, and you see, if I had left the tube white, it would just show very, very between all of the gaps, because it's not going to fit evenly particularly well. But you can see now I've built up this long roll, and I can just glue all of this along. And I do that until I have something that is long enough to fit into my gond. So you can see at this point, and I've gotten there, right? I'm going to be able to fit this in here. So that's the next thing I'm going to go and do, is I'm going to go and glue all of these, and I'm going to have my first roll that I can put on there. Now, what's became obvious to me as I did this is that even though I was trying to make circles that were half this length so I could have 2 sets of rows, that wasn't going to work. And because some of these are a little bit bigger, some of them are a little smaller, and so they would just press up against each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one roll this way, and I'm going to put a bunch of small rolls going in this direction along this edge. Should look nice. All right, I'll come back when I finish gluing all that together. Okay, overall not too painful. As you can see over here, I put my little block of wood. I put another little stand over right here, made sure this was relatively flat. And then I put 2 little black marks, one here and another one on this side right here. That was the length of this gond that this is going to go into. Then I just use super glue, and I would just put a bead long enough here, and then just use tweezers or fingers to just move it into the bead. And then this just dried as it stands, and it's okay. You know, it's not too bad. It doesn't move very much. I mean, it has no motion. Now this is a weak bond, of course, and once I put this in, it's not gonna I'm not gonna move in and out. If you wanted something stronger, maybe a little more elastic, some epoxy might do, but that'll take a lot longer to glue. And of course, as you can see, there's gaps in here because of the unevenness of how these things were wound. And you can see they're not flat at the bottom, so they're going to be very uneven, which is what I saw in the pictures. So that's what I'm trying to sort of reflect. So I think this is going to look just fine. I'm going to have a few extra here that I'll be able to use for the other side. What I'm going to then use now is a very sharp razor saw to just cut where the black marks were, and I'm going to slip that in there, and you guys will see that in a minute. And then I'll do the same thing with little stacks to put on the side. Well, we're close to the end here, so I did the exact same thing I did before with the long string here. I just used a short one of these, just put some glue on top of the tube, and then just stacked a bunch of these on top. Now I'm just going to use this very sharp razor saw. I'm just going to cut the stack of barbed wire loose, and as you can see, they are now loose. And then I'm just going to fit it in here, and that's it. This is the full load, as I had kind of wanted it. Now it turns out that this took roughly 7 of those 16-foot long wire packages, and I have a bunch that are left. I have some more over here as well, and what I'm just going to do eventually is just stack them along this way, and just continue making some load in here that just looks like it was stacked loosely on top of everything else. I think that's it's an interesting load, right? And that's what you saw at the beginning. That was riding the rails. So very cool. A lot of work. My fingers got I can only do this a little bit because of the little nubby thingies on these wires they do wear them down, so it's a little bit painful at times, or a little uncomfortable. Not painful exactly, but so what I am going to do is I am going to try to do a 3D scan of this, because if I wanted to do another one of these, I don't have that kind of patience. And so I will create, I hope, be able to create an STL file of this that I will put in, as available to everyone in case they want to do a 3D print of this load. And I'll do the different components, that way you can decide to assemble them, to scale them, for whether you're doing HO or hand scale or G scale. I like the way it looks. It's very uneven. It's kind of the image that I had in my mind of what barbed wire should look like. All right, be imaginative, have fun, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.